there because I didn't see a tent. And he said yes, and told me that he had started some weeks back an adventure of his own where he began in San Francisco, and his plan was to run from San Francisco to San Diego. And
pulling that contraption.
Pulling it at the time, he said, this is where I keep my gear. He doesn't technically pull it. We come to find out that the top of this, it was a fiberglass, plastic-looking, kind of a teardrop-shaped pod. On top of it were some solar panels. And these solar panels then generated enough power so that this little device, this trailer of sorts, was powered. It was solar-powered. And so it was what he called power-assisted.
Right.
So he wore a harness. He said basically he just ran with it.
Right.
And within this pod, he had all of his clothing and his water and his sleeping bag and his tent.
And his guitar.
And his guitar in a sound system.
Uh-huh.
So it opened up for a sound system, and he could play music at various stops, which he said he hadn't really been doing as much as he planned, because after a day of running, he was always pretty tired.
How far did he say he ran on the average?
Did
like
he say
like a half marathon?
Half marathon to a marathon a day.
Yeah, so that's what, 12 to 25, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, somewhere between 12 and 26 miles a day. He was hoping to finish on November 6th, I believe, was his target date. But he said that this campsite was so nice, he had decided he would spend 2 days there and rest in preparation for the rest of his trip.
I think he said it was one of the nicest, it was not maybe the nicest campsite on the trip.
Yep, he said he felt safe there is one of the reasons why. The man was from Switzerland, but I could not detect an accent.
I detected a little one, and I think he was from Switzerland, but it may have been a deal where maybe he was from Switzerland a long time ago or spent some time in Switzerland. He spent plenty of time here because he didn't have much of an accent.
Well, he told me he was raised in Switzerland, and then later on we met his parents and his brother who were visiting him, and it was his brother's birthday, I believe. His brother lived in Huntington. I'm guessing that's somewhere
Southern
near
California.
Southern California. But his parents still live in Switzerland.
Okay.
He told me he had just moved back in the spring, had just moved to Cleveland.
Okay.
He had not yet experienced a winter in Cleveland, and he wasn't looking forward to it. So and I asked him, I said, so what do you do? And he said, well, I haven't started working yet. I'm still in the transition period, is what he called it. So I have no idea how one could afford such a thing. But, yeah, he was running his way to San Diego.
Good. And you always meet interesting people on the campground. See, the best campground between San Francisco and San Diego. Nothing but the best for you.
Nothing but the best for me.
So we went to bed, and the next morning we woke up, and the wind had shifted. In fact, the wind had died way down, and the smoke was gone. The ash was gone. The wind was very nice and mild. It was very beautiful. We were able to cook breakfast, had our coffee, had oatmeal, yogurt, fruit, raisins, a nice breakfast, and the weather was beautiful once again.
It was quite nice.
It was. I hiked through a canyon that morning. Later that day, we went to the Reagan Library. I had already been, but you never had, so we did it again.
It was very interesting.
How so? What was the highlight of the Reagan Library?
The airplane was cool. Air Force One was neat.
Yeah, the Reagan was the last president to have that Air Force One, I think, and
not really. They
No?
said that during this was the plane that was commissioned during Kennedy's
a
administration.
Boeing 707.
And Reagan decided it needed to be decommissioned, and so he ordered a replacement. And I don't know what model that one is.
747, what they're flying now.
So
he ordered it, but
he ordered it, but it actually wasn't available, I think Clinton was the first president.
Really?
It took that long to build, and I'm sure the security and the technology involved for him to stay in contact with the world while up there is pretty phenomenal. So,
but the most phenomenal thing about that, the Air Force One wing. They had Air Force One there, and they had Marine One, a helicopter. It's a huge wing of the Reagan Library. The most impressive thing is you see these little displays, built by the Joe Blow Foundation, or built by the Friends of so-and-so, or built by this committee, or built by this organization or this company. That entire wing that housed Air Force One and Marine One and a lot of the different vehicles that were with the presidential motorcades throughout history was built by T. Boone Pickens. Yeah, by himself. A gift to President Reagan, the Reagan Library, from his friend T. Boone Pickens. In other words, he wrote the check, not his foundation, not an organization, not a bunch of people, including him. He wrote the check. I have no idea what that thing cost. But it's the whole one side is glass, so you can look out into the Santa Monica Mountains. It's just phenomenal. But that was what impressed me, the fact that guy thought so much of President Reagan that he wrote the check.
I also was impressed by the Oval Office. There's a reconstruction, an actual
in the library
with complete detail all the way down to the items on his desk. And the docent that was there described that they had to actually make this portion of the museum a step down so that they could make the ceiling 18 feet high, which is what the Oval Office is, so that the curtains are all the draperies are all the right length, and the photos and the pictures hanging on the wall, everything is to scale. It's perfect. All the way down to the carpet. So I thought that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, the whole thing. If you get a chance to go to the Reagan Library, in fact, this is really the only presidential library that either of us have ever been to. But it was quite impressive. I don't know where it stands when compared to the others, but I can't imagine the others being better than this. I'll just say that. Just as extravagant and magnificent as this library was.
And they have amazing the grounds, the landscaping. Of course, it's in a beautiful part of the country.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
But if you remember, we took some lunch with us and had a little picnic outside. So they had picnic tables, and you can tell it's geared for school field trips. And we saw a few school buses there. Yeah. But then because of the fires, many of the schools were closed.
Right.
That the school districts were closed.
Simi Valley is where this was, just outside of Los Angeles. But then we came back and dinner again at the Malibu Fish House.
This time we took wine.
Yeah. The Malibu Fish House does not serve alcohol, but you can bring your own. And many, if not most, do. So we stopped by Ralph's, got a bottle of wine, chilled it just a little bit. It was a red. It was it said California Zinfandel. I don't know if because in California, normally they call Zinfandels Primitivos.
No, it was Italian, not California.
I'm sorry. You're right. It was Italian Zinfandel. Thank you. But usually they call their Zinfandels Primitivos, but they call this a Zinfandel. So I don't know what it was, but it was quite tasty.
It had a twist-off top that made it a little bit more.
Well, we had to get a twist-off top because we didn't have a corkscrew. But it was fine. It was great, and it paired well with the fish. Came back to camp, cleaned out the tent, swept out all the sand, shook out the sleeping bags, and slept a whole lot better because the temperature got cool. In fact, it got so cool we had to get into the sleeping bags that night.
It did get cool, and a sweatshirt. But no sand, a light breeze, and no smoke, no ash. It was beautiful. Next morning, coffee and breakfast again. I went for another hike. We broke camp and went to the hotel. And where did I take you? Remember, I told you said you wanted a nice hotel, and did I get you to a nice hotel? It was a very nice hotel. It was called the Beverly Hilton.
I've been there before, many times, but you had never been there.
I had never been.
And I talked about how cool it was, and was it as advertised?
It was very nice, very modern, very sleek. The service was impeccable.
It's old school Hollywood. That's the only way to describe it. You think that if you turn around, you'll see Frank Sinatra or Richard Burton or some actor or actress from yesteryear. walking down the halls, Marilyn Monroe, somebody like that. They've kept it up. It was built in the middle 50s. They've kept it up, but they kept the 50s, 60s decor, ambiance. Is that the way to put it?
Oh, I thought it was very modern. I didn't feel retro at all. The fixtures were
really?
Absolutely.
I kind of thought it was kind of retro, especially did you walk into that international ballroom?
I looked inside.
Okay.
It was dark. I couldn't see much.
You know, you were doing something else, and I did walk into there, and that's very retro. The International Ballroom, by the way, that's where the Golden Globe Awards are held.
There was some awards ceremony going on when we got there, when we arrived.
They had an awards ceremony Friday night. They had another type of awards ceremony or gala going on Sunday night as well. But I think they have something there most every night just because it's a wonderful facility. But what we did, just as a little offshoot from this vacation podcast, what we did on this trip is kind of a lost art. And that's the art of compromise, okay? And I wanted to go on a camping trip. You wanted to sit in the lap of luxury. And somehow we managed to do both.
Somehow we did.
Maybe if our world leaders, or at least the country leaders that we have, could maybe learn a little bit from us, you think?
Maybe.
But it worked out well. I didn't get everything that I wanted. You didn't get everything that you wanted. But we both got enough of what we wanted to make it a wonderful trip.
It was wonderful. Yeah, you enjoyed it.
And you might even do it again, the camping part. But we checked into the Beverly Hilton, and again, I asked for an upgrade. I always say, wait, it doesn't hurt to ask.
Doesn't hurt to ask.
And the fellow said, Mr. Let's see, you know what? I don't have a room ready for you, but if you don't mind waiting a little longer, I can give you a nice upgrade, a room with a balcony. I said, great, we'll go have lunch. We'll see you later. So we went to the Nosh of Beverly Hills. It's a little Jewish deli right there on Santa Monica Boulevard. But you're looking at me like it's not right.
I don't know what street it was.
Okay, the Nosh of Beverly Hills on Santa Monica Boulevard.
I'll have to believe you.
Okay, and sat outside, had lunch, and watched the supercars go by.
Well, we did. I tried to have a conversation with you, but about every 15 words, you interrupted me with, "Oh, Maserati. Did you see that Ferrari?" So I kind of stopped trying to have a conversation.
Maseratis, Ferraris, Teslas, BMWs, Audis, lots of Land Rovers.
There were a lot of Hondas and Toyotas, too.
Yeah, but who cares about those? I'm talking about the supercars that go by.
Well, don't make it seem like
Rolls Royce, Bentley. Had you ever seen more in one place?
No.
Okay.
Never.
Not even on South Beach?
No.
No. There you go. But we checked into the Beverly Hilton after we had lunch, and we checked in, got our upgrade. We're on the 7th floor with it was a balcony. Not the greatest view, but it was fine.
View of the trash dumpster.
But we were on the 7th floor. I mean, if we looked out of our balcony, and if we turned to the left, we could see the LA skyline. If you looked to the right, you could see, I guess you could see, we were on the edge of Beverly Hills, so it wasn't actually Beverly Hills we were looking at. Westwood is what we were looking at, because you could see the Mormon Temple, and part of UCLA was not too far from there either. But yeah, it worked out. It worked out real well. But the cars, I love sitting there watching the cars. I mean, Teslas, Rolls Royce, Bentleys, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Aston Martins, Jaguar, Land Rover. I know I'm missing something, but just watching the cars go by was unbelievable. And lunch was good too.
Yeah, lunch was good too.
But it was just it was great. In fact, I've always been drawn to supercars, and I guess a lot of people, if you sit in Beverly Hills and take in the sights, number one thing they're going to think is, "Wow, what about the gals?" Well, there were a lot of beautiful women walking by too, but the cars were just amazing, and I can't stop talking about the cars. It made me miss my Jaguar. How's that? I saw these cars and it made me miss my car, because it was the Kia we had was fine, but it was a camping car. But then we had our lunch. We went back. We got washed up and met California